Good evening, YouTubers. It's Rawfear27 here again, I know. This is my third video so far this week, and this will be on some of my favourite 80s horror movies. Again, it'll be my top 10, but in no particular order. This will be an all-in-one video. It will take me a bit longer to upload, but it means I don't have to do two parts, and I can just do all one video. So I don't want to hang around too much, because the sooner I can get started, the sooner I will get it done. But you're probably looking around another 15-20 minute video, hopefully, if I don't ramble on and talk too much rubbish, which I'm doing right now. So we'll move on and start off with a film called Superstition. I saw this back when I was about 8 or 9, I think, and it was on VHS, and it was my friend who had it, and he was staying over for the evening, and he took that with him, and we watched it. And at that point, when I first watched it, I didn't really know what the film was called, but it took me quite a few years to track it down on DVD, because I didn't really know what the film was called. I can only remember key scenes from the movie, which kind of stuck with me, and I had to try and find the film using that and the basic storyline, which I kind of remembered just. This is my second edition, because I had it on DVD back around 2006, 2007. I got it on DVD. Because it's not a very easy film to find. If you do manage to find any UK copies or European copies, they usually tend to be quite expensive. This one I think cost me about £15 new. The other one I had, which was like a budget release DVD, was only about £8 or £9, but you can see it going for around £30–40 mark. Anyway, the storyline to this movie, from what I can remember, because it's been a while since I've seen it, this family, I've just moved into this house on the edge of a town, and it's got a lake, a small lake out front, and back in ye olde times, it used to be a scene for witchcraft and crucifixions, and they actually drown a witch, or a suspected witch, in the lake, and she basically comes back to torment anyone who comes anywhere near her house. So basically this family move in, the father happens to be an alcoholic priest. Yep, and they start getting tormented by weird goings on, monsters in the basement, I think. It's just it's a supernaturally kind of horror film with sort of bits of possession in the movie as well. It's not the best acted movie, but like I said, the reason why I picked this one, because I remember it from childhood, and you know, when I was younger there were some kind of scenes in the film which kind of did freak me out. Obviously watching it now as an adult, I realise, you know, the film isn't as good as you think it is when you were younger, but it's still one worthy of a watch. You know, the ending is a bit cheesy. The special effects in this are a bit ropey at times, but there are some good scenes in this movie, and a few good deaths as well, and that's the reason why it's in my top 10. The next one, I could talk about this forever and ever and ever and ever. It's my favourite film of all time. It's one I have grown up with ever since it came out. The movie came out in 1982. I was born in 1983, and I've kind of been watching it since I can remember. It is part of a trilogy. Second film is okay, the third film is borderline rubbish. It has good elements to the movie, but the whole storyline and the premise of it, and the fact that they shifted the focus away from the family to a different city, to a different members of the family, kind of ruined it. And obviously ultimately resulted, the film, sorry, I'm making it sound like the film resulted in the death of the main actress, but she shortly passed away, not long after the third movie was finished. And if you haven't guessed by now, I am talking about Poltergeist. You know, I have seen this film dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and it's always one that I can put on and watch over and over again. I quite like the sequel. It kind of went a bit far-fetched in terms of the supernatural side of it, but the first movie out of all of them has got to be the best. For those who don't know what Poltergeist is, it is a film by Steven Spielberg. Sorry, he produced it. It was directed by Tobe Hooper, who did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But the screenplay was written by Steven Spielberg, and he helped produce it as well. And it is what I like to call an introductory horror movie. It is a very simple story, but the special effects and the characters really kind of bring this film to life. This film created my fear of clowns, because there's a very famous scene in this movie which happens to contain a clown in it, and it's one that's always kind of, obviously watching this at an early age, a very early age, obviously it stuck with me, and it's, again, you know, I'm not terrified of them, they just freak me out, mainly for the reasons that I think that every time I'm going to see a clown it's going to pull me under a bed. But you know, this is a traditional ghost story pulled off with flair. The main character, Carol Ann, God rest her soul, she gets abducted by the spirits that are like living in her house, because her house has been built on an old graveyard. But when they built the housing estate that she lives in, they only relocated the headstones and left the bodies under the house, and obviously they've become a bit restless. But Caroline has this special soul or ability to her, and they need her to help them pass over. So basically they take her, but there's an evil presence there with her as well, which starts tormenting the family, and obviously doesn't want to let the little girl go. So it's the family's attempt at trying to get their daughter back from the spiritual world. But you know, the special effects in this film are fantastic, even to today's standards. You know, this film is from 1982, they still stand up. There is a few issues in terms of some of the editing in the scenes in some of this movie. There is a well-known scene in the movie where the editing is done quite poorly. It doesn't seem to be on every single edition of the film that's ever come out. I did have an edition on VHS, and that didn't have this editing issue, but it is present in this 25th anniversary edition, which I have on Blu-ray as well. But you know, if you've never seen this film, I advise you to watch it. You know, you will not be disappointed. It's quite a scary film, but you know, like I said, I could talk about this forever. It did spawn a kind of folklore, urban legend that, you know, this movie was cursed because, you know, like I said, the young actress from the movie did die when she was 12, and also the girl who plays the sister in this movie was murdered by her boyfriend not long after doing this movie. And also, and there was another couple of deaths in the sequel, the Indian, he died shortly after doing the sequel. So you know, it's got kind of a bit of a back history to it, but only kind of makes this film more intriguing. But you know, as I said, I love this movie, and you know, cannot recommend this enough. And on to the next one is a Canadian horror movie released back in 1981. Again, I don't know why I didn't include this in my slasher films. I think I forgot that I had it. But you know, I do have the remake. The remake is quite good as well. Again, I've only watched this one once, so forgive me if I can't quite explain some of the storyline, but obviously you'll get the basic idea of what this movie's about. And this is My Bloody Valentine. Again, like I said, with other slasher movies, it's quite a traditional slasher movie. But you know, it's quite a good one, and it's different to some of the other films that came out. Obviously, you've still got your traditional killer, but he's dressed up as a miner, and he ends up being the only survivor from a mining disaster which occurred on Valentine's Day. And because everyone else was at the dance, no one came to help, so some people died, and this guy who survived was basically locked up in a mental institution. Follow on 19 years later, they've not had a Valentine's Day dance since, but they think, well, enough's enough, they're going to go ahead and do a Valentine's Day dance, and find out obviously that the guy who was in the mental institution has escaped. You know, a bit cliched, but stick with it. And obviously the teenagers decide to go into the mine to celebrate, and obviously come across a killer in a mining suit wielding pickaxes and whatnot, and starts killing them. Yeah, it's quite a good one. Again, you know, it's acting in these films is never always kind of top standard, but you know, it's passable and it is quite enjoyable. Slasher, 80s slasher movie. Again, there is a remake, which is still quite good. I've got that one on Blu-ray and in 3D, and 3D works quite well in it. And there's a few moments where I've jumped when I think I'm going to get hit by a pickaxe. But yeah, no, this is a good one to watch. You know, again, there's not many films I own that are Canadian. I'm not going to say anything bad about Canadians, but you know, this is a good movie. And another one is another series of films. I've never watched most of the series of films. The first one is always the best one for me. I remember watching this one again as a kid, and it was a bit creepy. But today, you know, it's quite humorous. Obviously, seeing it when I was younger, I didn't really see the funny side of it. But again, you know, like I said, I've grown up, and it is quite funny in parts. It's a weird film, but you know, it's enjoyable, and that is House. Again, I haven't seen this one for quite a while, so forgive me if I don't explain it very well. But this guy moves into his aunt's house after she's killed herself, and his son ended up going missing somehow. He was out in the swimming pool and then just vanished. And somehow there's like some weird kind of alternative universe hidden within the house through the wardrobes and the mirrors and stuff like that, and it only happens at a certain time of the day or night. I think it's like midnight or something. And there's these weird creatures that come out into his house, and he kind of ends up going into like Vietnam, because it's all kind of linked to his past, and he ends up trying to find his son within the house, but he has to go into like the bathroom mirror, and like he's in like Vietnam. It's all weird, but it is a very enjoyable movie. Again, it's quite humorous in parts. It's got some quite good special effects in terms of some of the monsters. You know, I like the scene where this bird turns into bird, as in female woman, becomes this kind of weird fat hideous monster and ends up hacking her up, but her limbs are like still moving around. It's quite humorous. Again, it is a good movie. There is some, I think there's 4 of them altogether. I could be wrong. It could even be 5. But the sequels have never really stuck with me. It's always been the first one that I remembered. Yeah, it's a weird, quirky, funny, slightly iffy, spooky horror movie, but you know, it's just, if you like quirky horror movies, check that one out. And another film which has spawned one of my sort of fears of inanimate objects, Child's Play. Obviously, clowns were bad enough. I also detest any dolls, especially ones that are likely to come alive and try and kill you and steal your soul. This one, I think I briefly saw when I was younger, and then for some reason I don't think my parents allowed me to watch it, which probably was a wise move considering I detest dolls. But I only got this again after seeing the sequel, a pirated version of Child's Play 2 at a friend's house, and I got hooked back into the Child's Play series. The only one I don't actually own is Child's Play 3. I think mainly because of the James Bulger murders, and that film was sort of dragged into the whole thing that they'd watched at, and that was where they got the idea to kill him. So that's out of kind of protest. I've never really owned that one. I have seen it. It's not a very good film, but I refused to buy that one personally to own, just because of the circumstances behind the reason why it was kind of banned from the market. But I do have Child's Play 2, Seed of Chucky, and The Bride of Chucky as well. But again, this one out of all of them is the best one. Again, the Seed of Chucky and The Bride of Chucky have gone for a more humorous route with a horror theme, whereas this is more sort of an outright horror film. And obviously it's before Chucky became a bit like Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger was a good horror icon but he was overused and he became basically a comedian in his later movies, and it kind of ruined the whole kind of scariness aspect of him. The same can be said about Chucky. You know, he started off as quite a scary horror icon, only to kind of descend into like a comical character that you're not really scared of, which is why this first film is my favourite one. Again, the storyline in this one is a serial killer ends up inside a good guy doll, but in order for him to get out of the doll, he has to take over the soul of the first person who comes in contact with him, which happens to be a little boy called Andy, who gets one of these dolls for his birthday, because he desperately wants one, but his mother can't afford one, and ends up buying one from a street merchant who's acquired the doll after a robbery, and sold it illegally. And basically he starts coming after the kid, and no one believes the kid that the doll's actually alive, until a good scene in the movie where the mother finds out that the doll is actually alive and can talk and is killing people. Again, it's a very creepy film personally for me, because I don't like dolls, and the fact that he's walking, talking and able to kill, that's why I picked this movie. Again, it is a good movie. The second one is okay. Again, the third one, not so much. And again, I do like The Bride of Chucky and I do like The Seed of Chucky, just because of the comical aspect. But this is the best one again out of the series. And now on to another film containing a clown. This film isn't very good, but I've put it in because it's one of these films that's kind of that bad it's good. And this is called Ghost House. Again, I saw this one when I was young. I still remember the day that my mother rented this for me. And she said to me specifically when she rented the movie, "Are you going to be able to watch this one and you're not going to get scared?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine, yeah, I'll watch it, I won't get scared." By the end of it, I was grabbing onto my mum and looking away from the TV, only because there is a clown doll in this movie, which, even though looks awful when it comes to life because it kind of just floats around, it's the aspect of when it appears that freaks me out about this movie. It is a dubbed movie, but you don't really notice it most of the time. There are scenes when you're not quite sure if it is a dubbed movie or not. But there are some American actors in this, so I mean it's kind of partially dubbed and normal speech. But it's this house, there's the family have been murdered in it. There's this young girl who was there and she had this clown doll and she's been buried with it. But they keep seeing her around the house, and the people die in like bizarre accidents when this clown doll and this girl appear. But what freaks me out is when this girl appears with the clown, there's this weird nursery rhyme playing in the background. I can't quite make out what the tune is, and that's what's really freaky about it. It just appears and the song plays, and it's supposedly, I think it's meant to be that the clown's actually singing or saying this song. But it's weird, and the tune of it's just really eerie, and that's, I mean, again, this is one that I've kind of grown up with and it's always stuck with me, which is why I've put this one on my list. And another one I don't really know a lot about. I haven't owned it that long. I've only bought it recently because I've started working through trying to collect some zombie movies. And this isn't a traditional zombie movie as such. But it's a fairly well known one, and I managed to get the special edition for a really cheap price. I was given a book called The Book of the Dead for my birthday a few years back, and it basically lists the history of zombie films. So, and at the back of it there was a nice index of all the zombie films ever made up until that kind of the time that the book was made. And I've been using it as a shopping guide to help me find zombie movies that I'm interested in. And this one came up. I hadn't heard of it before, and I've only just recently started watching it, so I haven't quite finished it. But I can give you the basic idea of what the film is about. And this film is called Dead and Buried, and this is the Anchor Bay special edition, and this only cost me £1.80, brand new. 2-disc edition as well, with the cool sleeve. Pardon me. this is, like I said, it's a zombie film, but it's not a zombie film, if that makes any sense. This town called Potter's Bluff, and the locals, there's a mob of locals which are killing tourists whenever they come to visit, but then the tourists are coming back from the dead, but it's got something to do with the mortician, and they're kind of reanimating the dead for the, I don't know what exactly, I said I haven't quite got to the end of it, so I don't know exactly the reasons behind it, but you know, it's what I've seen so far, it's really, really good. Again, like I said, it's a zombie movie, but it's not like a zombie movie. It's not the traditional kind of flesh-eating, undead-looking kind of zombies. These are kind of like people-looking zombies, if that makes sense. But you know, I only put this on because it's an intriguing premise. It's a slightly different twist to a zombie movie, but it's done really well, and it stars Robert Englund, who I mentioned in yesterday's movie, plays Freddy Krueger. And it's directed by the guy who did Poltergeist 3, which I know doesn't really say much, but you know, he did a good job in this movie so far. And also Stan Winston did the special effects, who did the special effects for Aliens and Terminator 2. So yeah, no, it's done well. It looks well. I mean, it's a fairly old film. It was 1980. 1980, I think this one was done. And it still looks fairly good by today's standards, even for the DVD edition. But you know, I just like this edition. It's a very good edition for what I paid for it. You know, Anchor Bay do quite good box sets for horror films. So yeah, I was quite impressed with what you get on this movie, and even special features and all that. Goes behind the scenes. It's got all these like different trailers, stills galleries, biographies, sorry. Audio commentary and all that, so it's presented very well, so that's probably why I kind of liked it. But I said I will finish this one, so I can figure out what the hell is actually going on before going off my mind. Okay, 3 left, so I know I've hit over the 20-minute mark, so hopefully I'll be done within the next sort of 5 to 6 minutes, if I'm quick. This one, you wouldn't think it was a horror movie. This is produced, it is done by Disney, Walt Disney, and again, it's one I saw when I was very young, and it was just eerie and very creepy, and this is called The Watcher in the Woods. It's a slightly supernatural, slightly science fiction horror movie. This family that live in England, this American girls come over to kind of stay with them for a while, and they find out about this. They keep seeing this girl with a blindfold in mirrors, and it's got something to do with the disappearance of her daughter. This is Bette Davis, and her daughter went missing years and years and years ago due to a ritual that they carried out during the summer solstice. When the church was struck by lightning and caught fire, and the bell, they were in this bell tower, and the bell fell onto the girl, but when they actually went and looked, she was gone, completely disappeared, and they could never find her again. So this American girl comes and starts seeing this girl in mirrors and stuff like that, and asking for help, and she has to figure out what the hell's going on, what happened during the ritual during the summer solstice. It's very good. Again, you know, it's old. This one was I think this one was 1980 as well, but it's just very creepy. You know, it's done very well, and it's again, there's a slight sort of science fiction aspect to it, but you know, it's a very creepy, haunting movie. Again, it's always one that stuck with me. There is a kind of a tune which plays. There's a music box with a song in it, and it's one my dad used to sing along or hum when we were little. So it's always kind of stuck in my mind. It's quite an eerie tune. Doesn't say much for my dad. He didn't do it on purpose to freak us out. It was just a kind of catchy tune, and we kind of knew that it meant something. So yeah, that's in my list because of that. Now on to that's another slasher movie. This is one of the films I said I wouldn't include in my slasher films because I wanted to include it in this one. but I can only include Halloween 2 being the first one because Halloween came out in 1978, and this is my 80s slasher movies. 80 horror movies. But because this one follows directly on from the first movie, it's set in the same night and stars the same characters, it's just kind of the storyline continued on. And I really actually enjoyed Halloween 2. I think probably more so than Halloween 1. I think because there's more deaths in this one. And I like the whole hospital setting in this movie as opposed to the houses where the girls were babysitting in the first one. Can't really say much about this film that everyone doesn't already know. If you don't know Halloween, it stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance. Jamie Lee Curtis is a babysitter, and she was being hunted by a masked serial killer called Michael Myers in the first film. And basically, she escapes his clutches at the end of the film. His psychiatrist, played by Donald Pleasance, shoots him like 6 times, but he doesn't die. He falls off the balcony of the house. You go outside to look, he's gone. So this continues on directly from that. Jamie Lee Curtis gets taken to hospital because she's suffering from some wounds. She's been stabbed by Michael in the arm. So she gets taken to the hospital to kind of recover, but Michael's still in pursuit and goes after her. And obviously the hospital hasn't got a lot of staff on, she's on her own, so he basically starts killing off the nurses and the doctors to get to her. The only thing about this one at the end, because they followed the film, the direct sequel to this movie is Halloween H20, which Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to do as a kind of 20th anniversary to the Halloween franchise. So even though there are sequels, there is Halloween 3 which doesn't contain Michael Myers and it's about an evil toy maker who wants to kill children with masks. There is Halloween 4, 5, 6. They aren't direct sequels to Halloween 1 and 2. They kind of just changed, they're kind of what happens to Michael Myers during the years between Halloween 2 and Halloween H20. So basically Halloween H20 is the direct sequel to this one, but they talk about her faking her death after Halloween 2, but obviously this film doesn't show you that. In case you do get a bit miffed sometimes, there is no faking her death scene in this movie. It's obviously something that's been added in as a storyline plot rather than a feature in the film. But I really like this one. Again, it still feels like a Halloween film. You know, it still has the same sense of kind of not eeriness, but tension and dread. You know, that Michael could be anywhere. And I like the fact that it goes straight on from the first movie. So that's why I put this one in and not Halloween 1, because Halloween 1 isn't an 80s movie, it's a 70s movie. So, last but not least is the other film I said I'd mention in my slasher movies, but didn't. And this is Friday the 13th. Again, this is in my top 3 slasher movies. I do have all of them on DVD, including the poor number 5, which I actually quite liked, even though there's a twist in the movie which no one really liked. But apart from that, I thought it was an okay film. This is still the best one out of all of them. I like the campground setting. I like the cast of characters, and I like the fact there was a twist to the end. And everyone always assumes that it's Jason Voorhees that's the killer. But again, I said I don't want to ruin it for people who have never seen this film. Obviously the remake kind of messed around with the twist because the film started off with Jason Voorhees, even though that's not really true to the original franchise. But I like this film. You know, the special effects are still done quite well, even though a lot of the time, because they've kind of explained a lot of how they've done the special effects in this movie, you do notice the cheats in the special effects that they used, but I still like this. It's a good campground slasher 80s horror movie. Again, it's one that I can watch over and over again. Sean S. Cunningham did a good job of trying to recreate or reinvent the slasher genre with something different. Obviously sticking with the holiday theme. Obviously you've got your birthday horror movies, you've got Halloween, you've got Valentine's Day ones, you've got graduation day horror movies as well. So you know, this is, out of all of them, this is one of my favourite ones, and why it's in my top 10. So that is me done. I think this is going to end up being a 30-minute video. But again, I appreciate you guys watching. Again, please let me know if there's any films there you would like to see or you think I should have added into my list. Feedback, comments, good or bad, always appreciated. And again, I thank you for watching and wasting 30 minutes of your time with me boring you to death with me talking a lot. So thanks again, and thumbs up, and bye.